it turns out that many of the examples that Darwinists have hailed over, the past 100 years or more turn out to be degradative mutations. Examples I like to use concern malaria, resistance to malaria. I've used that in a couple of books. It turns out that many of them break genes that were already there and gives people some resistance to malaria, but now they're missing the gene. Same thing with antibiotics. Oftentimes an antibiotic targets a certain protein, and if you get rid of the protein, then the bug will be resistant to the antibiotic.
And it cannot give this to the other generations after this. It cannot, when it procreates again, it doesn't give the new traits to the new mosquitoes or the new...
Actually, it does give the new traits. For example, there's a disease called thalassemia, which is actually results from breaking one copy of a globin gene for hemoglobin. And turns out that gives the person resistance to malaria. And when they have children of their own, the children inherit the broken gene, and that allows them to be resistant to malaria too, but they're getting a broken gene. They're not getting anything constructive. So you have to separate helpful versus deleterious. That's different than constructive versus destructive. Helpful mutations can be either constructive or destructive, but it turns out that overwhelmingly they are destructive, degradative that we see. And here's one of the reasons why. If you wanted to break a gene, just like if you want to break a car or break a computer, there's any number of places that you can hit it with a hammer and it won't work anymore. But if you want to improve something, there's usually only one or two places where you can, because these things are in pretty good shape already.
That's amazing.
And I came up with something called the first rule of adaptive evolution: break or blunt any functional coded element, which just means a gene. Break or blunt any gene whose loss would yield a net fitness gain, and that just means more offspring. So break any gene or blunt any gene that would increase the number of offspring. And that's like in the case of malaria, they're resistant to malaria, but they have broken genes. And this is called the first rule because it happens a lot faster. Degradative mutations are intrinsically much faster than constructive ones. Simply because of that last slide, you can break things in so many more places. That means you have more opportunities and it goes faster. So that's the first thing you would expect a species to do when it's adapting to a new environment.